everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching the very first episode of HBO's The Last of Us, the long-awaited, kind of cautiously anticipated adaption of the beloved, a lot of adjectives I'm using here, right? Beloved video game series, The Last of Us, and yeah, like I said, a lot of us were very cautious about this one, very nervous, because everyone, I haven't met anyone who dislikes this series. There's only two of them, so I guess franchise series of video games, and yeah, it's for decades now, video game adaptions have not been known to be great. We've had a couple of hits in recent years, and it looks like, at least based on this first episode, we might finally have another really great hit on our hands. And to be honest, this is making me, just because it's a kind of related Sony project, this is making me a little bit less nervous about the God of War franchise that they plan on making over at Amazon. So, you know what, I'm kind of hopeful now that, hey, maybe video games can actually be done well, because I gotta say, this very first episode, they did such a great job of adapting everything that needed to be adapted while also adding in new things that they didn't feel like they took away anything. You know what I mean? They had everything there in pieces. Some things were slightly changed. They said different dialogue at certain points. Some characters were introduced earlier. Some characters were brand new characters. But it was all minor stuff. Nothing instrumental was changed. Except maybe the spores, which I've tweeted about before. By the way, full of spoilers. So anyways, there are no spores in this series. I think they took it away because they felt like somehow it would break the immersion of wouldn't spores be everywhere? Wouldn't everyone always have to wear a mask? Kind of thing. I don't know, but there's no spores. That's really the biggest thing that they've changed about the games. But yeah, they hit the right tone. Everything it felt right as for an adaptation of this show. Because to be honest, if they had just adapted this word for word, scene for scene, exactly how it was in the video games, it would have been a little bit boring, right? Because at that point, it's I'll just play the video game, So I'm glad that they actually managed to expand on things without feeling like they're spending too much time on that. You know what I mean? Because there's a balance there. It's a very difficult balance, because it would have been really easy to oh, we're going to show you this whole entire background and it's going to take up 90% of the episode, and then we'll finally get to the video game stuff. It's no. They expanded on the day, Sarah started her day, right? Joel's daughter Sarah started her day. We see her go to school, we see her buy the watch and fix the watch, and we see that really classic oh, there's this little blurb on the news, and oh, these people are chattering, and oh, you see a bunch of cop cars go racing in the background. These little hints that oh, the apocalypse is about to happen, the zombie apocalypse. We see all that kind of stuff happening in the background, which I really love. If you've ever seen Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, I think that does it really great, where the movie begins and you get little hints that the zombie apocalypse is about to start before it actually happens. They do a very similar thing here while Sarah's going through her day, and it makes that impact when, again, spoilers, when Sarah actually dies before the 20-year jump. It actually managed to make an impact there, because in the game, you're there, you play as Sarah, she walks through the house, so you get to know her in that way, but they actually let you spend a similar amount of time while also showing you new things, and that's what they've done really, really great here. They've just, like I said, they managed to hit that balance so far of it's stuff that needs to happen for the plot to, be what the game is, while also adding some new things. Here's a couple new characters, here's some new scenes that you've never seen before. Maybe here's they open with these doctors talking in the 60s, and one of them brings up fungal infections and humans, and he's like, what if the earth had gone suddenly warm, right? So global warming kind of played a part in this, so they're even sort of kind of answering some things that we don't really get answers for in the games. In the games, I don't think they ever really go too far into exactly how this started. We get kind of hints of oh yeah, it's this fungal thing, and it might have happened because of this maybe, but we don't ever get anything concrete, and the show already feels like what it's going to be doing is sort of taking ideas in the games that are only in the background, and you have to like read all these notes that you pick up and kind of put it together yourself. And it feels like the show is going to really present that to us and maybe even just put new stuff in. So yeah, just overall, they did a great job on this first episode. Just the tone of it. I feel like everyone is capturing the characters fully. And obviously, look, this is only the first episode. You know, as far as like where they're at in the games, they only just are leaving the quarantine zone, right? They're just getting out of Boston. They just like got past that little gate area. You know, so like it feels like, you know, the next couple episodes, that's when the journey really begins. So they've only barely started, but it was a strong start. Like the whole car scene where they're all talking in the car and panicking and you're seeing the chaos outside, they captured that, the tenseness, is that a word, tenseness? They captured the stress of that situation so well that I was like, even though, you know, I've played the game I think 3 times already, somehow I was still like fully enraptured in what was happening. Even though like I knew what was gonna happen, it didn't like that didn't affect what I was watching at all. And that's how I know how well it was working, because normally during an adaptation, especially like, oh, I played the game or I read the book, those moments don't hit as hard, you know, like those don't work as well because it's like I already know. But no, they managed to capture it. It all worked, and just, man, this was great. This was just a great first episode of TV, and I am, you know, it feels like I wasn't allowing myself to get too excited about this, you know, and it just, whew, you know, I can let go of that the breath I was holding in, you know, just like, you know, is this gonna be good? But yeah, just great job, you know. Now the hope, of course, is like, hopefully they keep this up. Hopefully, like, you know, do the actual plot. Don't change too many things of the story, right? Because you're just gonna upset everyone if you do that. But you are, you know, you are allowed to show more things. Show, you know, put some more. What would the phrase even be? What's the opposite of cutting away the fat? What's the opposite of that? Putting more meat on the bones? I don't know. But you know, just kind of expound on things that the games might have hinted at, introduce new characters, but give them a purpose, but also don't let any of that stuff overtake the actual plot that we all know and love, because that is why we're watching the show, you know? So as long as they can keep hitting this balance that they did so well in this episode, I think we're in for a really great time. Like, so far they did it. They really did it. I'm so happy. Now honestly, I have not looked up any reviews. I haven't looked up what some people might be complaining about, and to be honest, I don't care. This was so good that like I don't think anyone's complaints or you know, long Twitter threads of how this and this and this isn't right, you know, like that's not gonna bother me at all, to be honest, because like this was so good that it stands on its own. I don't care about whatever critiques might be out there. Yeah, I had a great time. This was just great TV. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when The Walking Dead was in its very early seasons, and it still felt like it had the potential to be good TV before The Walking Dead kind of just fizzled out, you know, seasons into a show. It feels like the early seasons of Walking Dead, but on a much better scale, you know, like written better, paced better, higher budget, obviously. So it just, like, this feels like we're finally fulfilling that promise that The Walking Dead kind of failed to fulfill, you know, and like that show never became as good as it could have been. And this one kind of feels like it's like, okay, we're actually gonna do it, right? We're fully gonna, you know, as good as you think an adaptation of this game could be, it's actually gonna manage to do that thing. So yeah, I'm fully on board right now. They won me over. I was like, I didn't want to like get too excited. I was like, no, I don't know. It's, you know, like, what if this is horrible? You know, or even worse than being horrible, what if this is like forgettable? What if it's boring because I already know the plot and I don't feel like there's a point in watching it, right? Like that would have been even worse than it being bad, because then there just wouldn't have been anything to say about it. But this first episode, you did it. You know, I hope you keep this up, because enough new stuff, but not overwhelmingly new stuff, you know, like, Anyways, I'm rambling. I'm going on, but yeah, The Last of Us episode 1. I really enjoyed that. You know, they show darker sides of Joel, but they hit the tone right. They have to throw away that one kid's body in the fire, and Joel just doesn't care at all. So it shows you like how dark of a place he's been in the last 20 years. He's dealing drugs to the soldier, and then that same exact soldier ends up being the one who catches them outside. And I love how like that kind of loop was closed like that. Just, man, everything they did, good choices all around. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this first episode of The Last of Us. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.